I want to talk about a deal that Pace and I got under contract over 2 years ago. This is a long time coming. And I want to just share the story of how this deal came about, and share some of the lessons that we took away throughout this process, because it's been a very long process. So this is summer of 2019. We had cold callers in our business, just like we still do today. For those of you that may not know, one of our primary lead generation strategies for us to get deals in our real estate business is cold calling. It's been a bread and butter of ours. And so we get this lead 2.5 years ago. The guy's name is Millard. And we find out Millard actually, some backstory on this deal. Millard, the seller that was on title, isn't who we ended up speaking to. We ended up speaking to Millard's son that was living in this property. And so, oh, yo, what up?
Yo, what up, dog? Sheesh. How you doing, bro? Sorry I'm late.
Good, dude.
Oh, you're talking about Coolidge, the 2-year-old deal?
Yeah, and the reason I just started bringing it up is because I don't know how many times you have conversations with people that are new and getting started, and they give up so soon, and they don't follow up with a lead that could turn into something, and it's like that, the fortune being in the follow-up. And so I was just thinking about that deal today, and I'm like, I just feel like it's a good story to tell, just for people to understand like the persistence and, consistency that you have to have.
I love it.
The original source of where that, the Coolidge deal came from, where it was a cold call lead. It was followed up on a lot, 20 plus times to finally get this deal under contract. So then as soon as we get it under contract, we find out it has to go through probate. So we have this deal, and we still get referrals from probate attorneys pretty frequently. It's one of our, our best lead sources. And for those of you that are like, what the heck is probate? So essentially what happens is there's a lot of people that don't have a will. So if somebody passes away and they own property and they don't have a will, what's going to happen is all of that, value of their property is going to have to go through probate. The long story short of what probate is, it's the legal process for transferring assets to the rightful heirs of that property, essentially, and where attorneys get paid a bunch of money to, do that process. And essentially that's what we had to do. There was a man, Millard, which is the seller that I was talking to you guys about. And so Millard passes away. His wife, Carol, is in an assisted living home, and they have their son, Nathan, that's living in the property, and he's doing drugs in there, bringing all of his friends over to do drugs, selling drugs out of the house, doing whatever else you're doing in a house where there's lots of drugs and needles and craziness going on in the property. And so the mom, Carol, that's in the assisted living, she's so excited to sell it because she just wants to be done with it. She doesn't have the heart. She doesn't have the heart to, kick her own son out of the house. So that was part of the deal, was like, hey, you guys buy this and then deal with my, drug addict son, and I'm happy to sell it to you. So we get this property in 2019, summer of 2019, we get it under contract for $145,000. which was a good deal then. ARV was like $250 in 2019 for this property. And fast forward, we go through this probate process. It takes 6, 7, 8 months. And we're so excited. Probate finishes. And guess what month it is? March 2020. And if anybody can guess what happened in March of 2020, COVID happened. So we get through probate. We spent all this money taking it through probate, and then we're finally ready to close on the property March of 2020. COVID happens. The assisted living homes shut down. They're not seeing notaries. They're not allowing the residents in there that are high risk. They're not allowing them to go out to title companies and sign for properties. So we get roadblocked March 2020. No problem. We have lots of deals. We're doing deals. We're doing business. We're doing other flips. We're doing other wholesale deals. We're doing other rentals. So this deal is just sitting on the sideline. We're following up, following up. God bless Pace's wife, Laura. She was following up with that assisted living facility probably a couple times a month, all of 2020. And for anybody that knows and has, family or friends that were in assisted living, it was a nightmare trying to do anything and get into them during all of last year. And so during this process, we just kind of let it sit on the side. We're just, waiting for assisted living to open up again. End of the year, some of them are starting to get a little bit more lax, like December of 2020, beginning of this year, they're starting to get a little bit more lax. And then we get an appointment to be able to go see Carol and to be able to finalize the documents. And what happens is we let our title company know. We say, we're ready to close. Let's close this bad boy up. And we're ready to buy this. Now the ARV of the properties went up to over 300,000. We're like, we're going to make more money on it. The Carol's super happy to get this done. And then another hurdle happens. We find out, we open up title. Carol, in the same month that we're ready to close, signs a contract with another buyer that her drug addict son convinces her to sign with. And what does that other buyer do, Pace? What do they do kindly for us to, during that process?
What's so funny about this other buyer, the company, they follow you and I on Instagram. They're part of our free creative finance Facebook group. And they know that we're the ones with the contract. So they go lock it up. And then they oh my gosh, they sue the seller. They sue the seller and they lock up this whole entire contract. And my wife is like, dude, these people follow you. You should reach out to them. I was like, babe, we're above all that. I'm not reaching out to them. Call the attorneys. I don't play around anymore. Like, call the attorneys. So we call the attorneys. It was a simple email and I disconnected myself from it because it's like, move on, go get more deals, go provide more value. I'm not going to get locked up in one situation. And I knew that we had the rights over this property.
Yep. 100%.
So we call Sean St. Clair. Sean St. Clair gets involved. His office gets involved. And he goes, and this was interesting. We find, obviously, there's a memorandum on the property from the other wholesaler. Yep. And they sued the seller over, I can't remember what did they sue the seller over? It was either breach of contract.
Yeah, it was breach of contract, just non-performance on the agreement.
It was something more than that. It was like falsely signing a document, something like that, fraudulent I don't know, something where they were like, you shouldn't have signed a contract with us in the first place. You lied to us and you did this and you did that and we have damages and blah, 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 blah. And so this is funny. John Talcott says, did you kill a fly with a hammer? Yes. Sometimes when you get a deal going on with a wholesaler, calling an attorney instead of trying to deal with it yourself is like killing a fly with a hammer. Do you need to kill a fly with a hammer? No. But you kill a fly with a hammer to send a message to all the other flies. That's why you do it. I'm not going to mess around. I'm not playing around. This is my livelihood. This is my business. I'm not playing around with you. Watch me destroy this other fly with a hammer. Okay. So here's what happened. Our attorney got them to, we forced them to remove their memorandum. Okay. And
5 months later.
How many?
It was like 5 months, 6 months of that.
Amazing. Meanwhile, property continues to go up, continues to go up, continues to go up. I had no idea, by the way, that house, when I went to the house to sign that contract, I had no idea that house was going to end up being on a TV show. Like that, if you could have like gone back to me and go, hey, just so you know, when you sign this contract, in 2.5 years, it's going to be on a TV show. It's so weird how this deal worked out. So
everybody guessed that.
Super weird. So here's what happens. We get the memorandum taken off. We then hurry to close escrow on the deal. And then they turn around and sue the seller. Did they name us in their lawsuit?
They did originally, and then they released it 3 months after we closed.
So finally, we close on it. We close on it with hard money, right? So we're sitting there making hard money payments every single month because we feel like we're in the right. And they're still suing the seller. And here's what happened. The people who sued us and locked up the seller and did all that kind of stuff, they ultimately just ran out of money. They ran out of energy. They ran out of steam. That's it. And so when you guys run into these situations with other wholesalers, I know it sounds demoralizing to be like, I don't have the money to fight people. Guys, this is why squatting up is so important. This is why doing deals with other people experienced that have capital that can fight this kind of stuff is so important. I remember Eric Kabata. This is an unrelated story, but it's a very similar story, and it'll take 45 seconds. I buy a deal from Eric Kabata on Instagram. Okay. B. Miller, I think that that house is on episode 6 or episode 7. It's coming up. So Eric Kabata, I buy this deal from him on Instagram. He calls me like a week. I don't close on it. I just open escrow with him. He's wholesaling the deal to me. And he calls me up. He's like, hey, my seller's not going to move forward with us. He wants to cancel. I was like, the hell he's going to cancel. Your seller's not canceling. Your seller got another offer. He's like, how do you know? I'm like, Eric, come on, bro. Look who you're talking to. I've done a couple of deals. So long story short, I called Danielle Graham, who was my attorney at the time. I still love Danielle, but we've hired, relationship with Rylas, relationship with Sean. And Danielle Graham gets involved in this deal, and we end up finding out that the seller did go and sign with another wholesaler. And so I spent $7,500 going after that seller for breach of contract. And it's called, the lawsuit is called Specific Performance is the name of the lawsuit. You go after sellers for specific performance. That's the name of the breach, okay, or the lawsuit. So we go after them. We actually never get into litigation because we end up settling, and the seller ends up having to pay all of my attorney's costs plus a $20,000 damage against the purchase price. So Eric Kabata ended up making a whole bunch more money. I got all my attorney's fees back, and it only took like 45 days. Okay. The seller was ghosting Eric Kabata the entire time, not replying, not texting, not whatever. And we forced that seller to walk into a title company, sign the closing docs, and sign with us at $27,500 less money than what he originally signed with Eric for. Listen to that. That is the power of having a good contract. That's the power of having a good attorney. That's the power of making sure you file a memorandum on a property and protecting yourself. And that's what happened on this house on Coolidge, is that we were protected. We had good attorneys. We had good paperwork. And we knew with 100% certainty that we were in the right. We had good people on our team. And so now we're in that deal. We have hard money on that deal, right, Cody?
Yep.
Who funded that for us?
That was good old Frank West.
Frank West. So we've got expensive hard money on that.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're racking. But here's the thing is, now what is the ARV of that? The original ARV was $250. Now what is it?
$400,000.
It's gone up $150,000 in value. We will make an extra $100,000 minimum on this deal for going through that. An extra $100,000. So are we currently renovating the property? I kind of feel like doing a meetup at this property right now. Not right now, but like,
I was like, maybe when it's a little bit more cleaned up. Yeah.
How far is it? It was a heroin den. We actually had the TV crew when we went on the show. This was about 2 months ago. We went and took the film crew there. Our film crew, by the way, this is how bad the house is. Our film crew came off of police shows and ambulance chasing shows where they like jump out of the back of an ambulance on people, like car scenes and drive-by shootings and people getting shot in the face and all sorts of crazy things. These people are like jumping out of helicopters. That's the film crew that filmed our TV show. And what they did is they come to this house and they were like, we are not going in that house. We are not going in that house. There's heroin needles on heroin needles. There's people in the attic. It's like cockroach city. It's horrible. There was so much trash in the backyard that you could walk through over the pool because the pool is so full of trash. And so at one point we were going to assign this deal. And how much were we going to make originally? Like when we first looked at this deal, we were going to make like maybe 15, 20 grand assigning it.
Like 15 grand.
But now we're going to fix and flip it. And we'll make probably 100 to 150,000 bucks.
Yeah. 150.
Freaking love that. Says Pace. That means that when a seller signs a contract, he cannot back down 1000%. When you sign a contract with a seller, they cannot legally cancel at any moment unless you do something wrong in the contract. If you breach contract, then they can cancel. If you do everything right and the seller refuses to sign, you go after them and you sue them for specific performance. I've never once and never will ever lose a battle with the seller over a specific performance case, ever. The seller will be required to sell that property to by a judge. Okay. A seller cannot legally cancel on your contract unless you do something stupid and you breach contract and you don't put in earnest money and you don't follow the rights of your contract. Okay. So I would make sure you have a really good contract. All my sub 2 students, 0 to hero students have great contracts. I would make sure you guys don't have some like free wholesale contract that you found on somebody else's website that's like, download my free contract, right? Don't use those because you're going to have a hard time holding those up in court. And also your contract needs to state that your seller has to pay for your attorney's fees if that you have to go and get an attorney involved. So what you're saying is anytime a seller tries to back out or cancel, we should not back down or be scared and just let it go. Fight for the deal. Cody, what's the answer?
I say yes and no. Yes, if they're trying to do something shady. No, if it's like little old lady Sue that wanted to sell their house, was going to be like moving out of state to live with her kids, and then the kids decided not to let her live there anymore, and she's not going to sell. Like
I disagree with Cody on this.
I would memorandum that deal, but I wouldn't force her to sell it. And if she's trying to get out of it to sell to someone else, force the deal. If she's trying to get out of it because she's just not moving to Iowa to live with her kids anymore, then I'm going to memorandum the deal. And then if she ever decides to sell it in the future, we're going to be the ones to buy it.
Yes. So here's the thing about little old ladies. They are the most infamous liars of all time. Okay. And I don't trust any of them. Here's what the answer is on little old ladies. So we've had cancellations in the past. Before Cody and I were partners, I had a cancellation of a little old lady. Here's what happened. She comes to me. We sign a contract. And she comes to me like 30 days into our escrow. We had like a 60-day escrow. And she says, you know what? My husband and I decided to stay in the house. I'm like, okay, great. She says, we're going to stay in the house. You know, we're a VA. Please let us we're not a VA. We're a veteran family. Please let us cancel the deal. We're going to stay in the house. I go, okay, here's what I'll do for you. I'm going to make sure that we have a memorandum on the property, and that memorandum can be released after 5 years. And if you sell at any point in the next 5 years, I have the first right of refusal at the price we just agreed to. And she's like, oh, of course, absolutely, no problem. 2 weeks later, I get a call from a title company. Hey, Pace, we need you to remove your memorandum. Well, why is that, title company? Oh, well, because this little old lady is selling her house to another investor and you have a contract and you breached contract with this lady. I'm like, oh, I did I? Is that what she told you? And I told them the story and they were blown away. And so from that point forward, it wasn't that point forward. I had been burned on other old ladies before, but I just realized that like the sweetest people that you fully trust as sellers, this is where my phrase came from that you guys hear me say all the time. Buyers are liars. Sellers are worse. Right. And here's where that conversation came from. One day, it was about 2 days after that little old lady thing happened. My wife called me and she's like, this buyer is trying to back out of the deal. She's like, I hate buyers. Buyers are liars. And I was like, sellers are worse. So what would you say is the moral of the story for this deal?
So I would say that, I mean, the moral of the story is 2 parts. Part 1 is when you have a deal, pretend you don't have any deals. Like every single day is a new day. Any deal that you've got in the past is dead to you, and you have to go and create new business. There needs to be new opportunity created every single day, because like this is a 2-year situation. We didn't get paid on this in 2019 when we got the deal. We're going to get paid on it in 2022 because it's going to take until then to renovate this thing. So that, you know, that's part 1 is always be getting the next deal. Don't rest on your laurels when you get a deal and think, okay, I got a deal. I can, stop working as hard because I'm going to get paid 10, 20, 30 grand, whatever. Always be working that next deal. And the part two is the fortune is in the follow-up. This is a deal that took a tremendous amount of follow-up to work it through all of these hurdles. Thankfully we had, a great attorney on the probate side helping us, with Rylas getting the probate done, to then Laura helping with, continuing to stay in touch with the seller in the assisted living, to then, great attorneys that helped us push it through when we were dealing with the memorandum. There's just so many hurdles that had to, be overcome and followed up with to get this deal to the finish line. So that is so. Whoa, what did Alex say there? Pace, I saw.
He says, I have that problem, Cody. I have a lead that me and my partner were working on, and I stopped looking for more leads. That's actually a disease. It's a scientific disease. Cody, what do we call that disease?
It's called one-itis.
Oh, damn. One-itis. Deadly. Is there a cure for that?
Go get more leads. Talk to get more deals. The worst thing to do is get a deal and then baby that deal to the finish line, and just like, people find this way that they get this lead and they're like cradling it, and it may not even be a lead. It may just be a suspect, not a true lead. They're cradling this person that said they would sell. And then maybe they do get it under contract, and then they baby it for that 30, 45 day, escrow, and somehow don't get any other business in those 45 days. Cause they're like calling title. Hey, how's the deal going? Are we still moving along? All right. Calling the end buyer. You guys still buying it? Oh yeah. Like, awesome. We're closing in 2 weeks. Like, just sitting there babying that deal, and they're not creating any new business.